if you scroll down and go to advanced settings, there is a section in there to be able to schedule your reels out natively within the Instagram app, which is literally a lifesaver. I know you saw that and you messaged me and you were like, I didn't know you weren't scheduling them out already.
I know.
Like, no.
Like, wait a minute. Like, Kaylee, all the reels that we post each week that you post for me with the captions, you're telling me that you actually go into the app and have to go post this now. Like,
yep.
I just thought it was all miraculously happening behind the scenes automatically. And she's over there like cranking the machine.
God bless social media managers.
Hey, Kaylee.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I'm so excited to have you on the show and share you with the world. But as you know, I always begrudgingly share you because that means I have to share you.
I know.
Guys, I wrote a testimonial for Kaylee because she's my social media manager. And I wrote a testimonial for her that was like against my better judgment. I'm telling everyone how great she is because that means that I have to share her with the world. I can't keep her to myself.
It's my favorite. I love it.
Yeah. Everyone meet my secret weapon, Kaylee Lee of Curate Creative. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you on and to unpack all of your knowledge around social media. You ready?
I am so ready and so excited.
So this is one thing that most people don't know about you. We had the opportunity to meet at the Powerhouse Women event in person, finally. It's amazing how I've gone years knowing people, and I feel like I'm business besties with so many women that I love and adore, and I've never actually physically hugged in person, but I got that opportunity in Arizona this past year with you, and we got to talking over some massive quesadillas, and
3 foot to be exact.
Yeah, 3 foot quesadillas, and I have to have you share this. It took me a long time to figure out how old you were and also to unpack more of your background and experience. And I think it's something so unique about you. So could you just share with our audience a little bit of your background? And obviously I say your age, but like it's relevant to how you work. So just tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your background here.
Yeah. Well, I'm 22. I don't tell anyone that, but now everyone on your show knows. And basically my background has nothing to do with marketing, and I never thought that would be what I would end up doing. I was actually a dancer from the time I was 3 to 18. So 15 years of my life was devoted to dancing. From the time I was like 12 to 18, I was dancing 8 hours a day. It was a full-time job, basically.
Wow.
I thought I would be professional, but then a lot of injuries later and me realizing, oh, I'm going to make 20 grand a year starting out in the core de ballet. I don't really want to do this. So I knew that I wanted to take a different route. I knew that I was going to get my bachelor's regardless because, you know, I had a free ride to get a bachelor's. Why not get it? So I majored in marketing. From that, as you know, you usually have to do an internship. And I worked at a coffee shop at the time. I networked with a lot of people. And one of my favorite people there that I networked with, his name is Ben Platt. And he actually would come in every morning. He was a business owner. I loved his energy. I loved his entrepreneurial spirit. And I knew I wanted to work with him. So one day I was just like, hey, I need an internship. Are you available? Are you taking anything? And he was actually starting his own CPA firm. And so he brought me on as an intern, and that was my very first marketing job. And that actually transformed into, he is involved in like 15 other businesses. I started taking on clients from him, and then I started getting my own clients, and then that evolved into Curate. So here we are today. I knew by the time I was, 20, getting my bachelor's, because I got my AA when I was 18. I was a bit ahead of the curve, and I knew that I didn't want the typical, roaring 20s lifestyle. I knew that I wanted
your
to,
AA, just for AA is what?
2-year degree.
Right. Okay. So did you graduate high school early or?
No, I graduated high school and college at the same time, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were 18 and you had a college degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But all that leads back to, I feel like, the discipline that was developed from dancing, just of like, forcing myself into these routines. And I think it just made me realize that I want to keep that discipline regardless of what I'm doing with my life. So here we are.
I love that.
Yeah.
And thank God a CPA hired you, because
I know.
guys, I found out Kaylee was 22 and I about fell out of my chair, because I was like, if you guys know my Instagram, think about this. Somebody who is 22 years old was writing most of that copy. I mean, of course I review it, but like Kaylee can attest, I have very few comments on the copy, and it's amazing because she writes like a 15-year seasoned CPA and she is 22 years old. I still can't believe it. So, that's why I wanted to share that with everyone, that like, it's almost like an old soul. Like, I feel like you are much more experienced than what your age would assume. And I think the work ethic and discipline is something to be highly valued and to be proud of. So I wanted to make sure that you got the opportunity to share that.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. So let's talk about marketing for a second. I know that wasn't your quote unquote background, but like, I mean, you were educated in the area of marketing. And what draws you into marketing? Like, where does the passion for marketing come from, and sort of your mission with Curate?
So I love helping people. That's always been my thing. I love people and I love making their lives easier, basically. And I've always seen the vision behind businesses, and I've always seen, this is where you are, this is where you want to be, and I know how to get you from point A to point B. So I'm going to be that person that's going to help you do that. I'm creative. And I think marketing is just like the perfect thing. I can do a lot of services, quote unquote, for business owners, for entrepreneurs, but I think marketing is definitely my best route, just in terms of what my strong suits are. And it's just been amazing in the past. I guess I've been doing this about 4 years now, of like how much it's evolved and grown, and how much I've learned in the process, and how much I'm continuing to learn. It's like, regardless of how much you think you're an expert in something, you're never an expert, because there's always something new to learn.
Yeah, welcome to being a CPA.
Literally.
Yeah, welcome to like, if you want to compare, this is why I think we understand each other as business owners. The tax law changes as frequently as the Instagram algorithm.
Yep.
So we always have to adapt
daily.
and be nimble. Daily.
Yeah.
Well, in 2020, absolutely daily. Now this is something that I think is your strong suit, which I'm so glad you were able to tap into a strength like that, which a lot of us struggle with. I think a lot of people, when they hear social media marketing, they immediately go into time draining, monotonous tasks, creating content. Oh, I have to create more content today. And they have to show up even when they don't feel like it. And it turns into a chore and an obligation, as opposed to a fun opportunity. And I think that with a lot of pressure right now, people are thinking they have to do so much more than they probably need to. Can you just kind of offer some advice to the entrepreneur who is overwhelmed and struggling with, the pressures of, I need to create so much content, and then I'm too tired to do anything else and actually serve?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is so common, especially when like you're first starting out posting. And I think a lot of the reason when you're first starting out why you get so overwhelmed is because you're trying to do everything right off the bat, and it's all or nothing. It's this mentality of like, I have to do 7 posts a week or I'm not going to do any.
Right.
And so it becomes like almost a full-time job, because let's be real, like posting that much, if it's not what you're really, really good at, is a full-time job. And so I think the idea of like starting small actionable steps towards, getting to your goal eventually is what needs to happen. You need to create something that is realistic. And I think another thing is business owners are super hesitant to repurpose content, which that's such a huge thing, as you probably already have so much content, like you with all of you had so many blogs on the back end that could be repurposed into content. It can be repurposed into emails. It can be repurposed into posts, your podcasts. So it's like all this huge circle of all this content that you're putting out. Don't be afraid to repurpose that everywhere. And that will cut back on so much time. But honestly, it's like, if you don't see yourself doing it long term, just outsource it.
Yeah.
That's the true answer.
The combination, here's my mentality in when I outsourced everything over to you and decided to, and by the way, guys, when I say outsourcing it, it's still me. Like, a lot of it is my language. So here's what I outsourced I made the time compress with Kaylee's help. And I think that what most people miss is that they're going to lose their voice, or they're going to lose their thing, their uniqueness, and say, I can't have someone else write for me. I just can't do it. Like, they won't let that go. And I'll tell you the mentality I had when I switched that. And that was, okay, if I can write a long form blog, or I can, like, if I write it all out and dump all my thoughts in writing in that blog post, because blogs can be a little bit longer form and be very forgiving. Similarly with a podcast, when I first started the podcast, it was like an hour long episode. And you just have that, and you produce that on the front end. That's the first domino that gets pushed. Kaylee could then take, in like a relay race, right? Kaylee could take that and do so much with it. One Q&A from a phone call turns into a podcast episode, turns into an Instagram clip, turns into a post. 3 tips I share on a blog can be an Instagram post in short form, or you can turn it into an email. There is so much repurposing that can happen, guys, that we're not tapping into. That you ask me how I crank out all my content. This is how I just do a couple of long form things and let Kaylee do her thing. It's totally possible.
Yeah. And even this right now, like, you're recording in Riverside. I have my phone set up over here to where, like, I can pull clips if I want. And, that is, we can pull video because, video is king right now.
Absolutely.
And it's so simple if you just are willing to do the few steps on the front end.
Yeah, I think you just have to come in with the intention of trying to compress time and saying, how can I make this hour work for me 4 times? Mm-hmm. And when you can do that, the sky's the limit. I don't spend a ton of time on content creation anymore. A, because I have a great team, but B, because I've learned that to be intentional about, if I'm going to spend an hour, this is how I'm going to do it, so that it's easier to multiply. And I think that's huge. And it makes it more fun too. Like, what tips do you have, or what have you seen work well with your clients where they can kind of inject more fun into the process of content creation? Because like I said, a lot of people feel like it's a chore.
Yeah.
And it's just like begrudgingly, oh, I have to show up and like smile and point and dance and do whatever. Like, how do you inject more fun into it?
I think a lot of it is going into it with a plan with the organization, but then allowing for creative freedom, creative flow in the process. And I think a big thing for me and for a lot of my clients is making time blocks where you're dedicated in that time block to specifically creating content. You have a list of, 10 topics that you're going to sit down and talk on for like a minute each. So that's 10 minutes. Maybe if you shoot it twice, that's 20 minutes. So that's 10 videos right there. You could repurpose that over, a good amount of time. So time blocks, definitely. Organization. So we use marketing calendars, which to put like content dumps and track marketing dates for any important launches. So go into it with a plan, but allow for creative freedom.
Totally.
That's like my top.
And my other thing is, let's talk about idea. I call it idea mining. So if you're feeling like I have nothing to post, mm-hmm. and you have no ideas, and you feel like there's nothing new, what are your best tips to mine new ideas?
So number 1, just scroll. I love using TikTok for this because it feels more fun for me. That's like a super fun, just sit down for 20 minutes and scroll through TikTok.
And that's the
I usually get
time limit.
A lot of inspiration from that if I don't let myself fall into that hole. So that, and then also though, looking at your past content, what has performed well, what maybe, you got 500 likes on 4 months ago. Don't be afraid to repost that or reshoot it and, post it in a different way. And, see what your audience is responding well to. I think that, and then looking at, like, you should be keeping a marketing calendar and you should be dumping any ideas that you have at any point in time when you do have a creative flow, so that when you're like, oh crap, I don't know what to post, you can just go to that and get your inspiration.
I love that. And, in coming up with ideas too, I also look at, who else is doing something similar to me, or who am I inspired by, and listening to their stuff, and then just finding my own spin on it, or my own way to apply that to a framework, or my opinion on something. I think that we don't enough leverage each other's content, like remixing and giving thoughts, or just reposting something with some additional commentary and saying, I agree with this part, but here are my thoughts on this part. And just giving, being more collaborative and actually being more social on social media. I think that's
Yeah,
underappreciated right now.
for sure. And I love when you do that, like with other CPAs. And that's I am very specific on who I follow because I only want to follow people that I can get, inspiration from, like
Yeah,
Hormozis.
exactly. Oh my God, we love the Hormozis. The other thing too is they've been doing these videos lately that I think I really enjoy, that when like Layla reacts to other videos. And if you're not following Layla Hormozi, she's amazing. But they do this video where they'll watch like a piece of a TED Talk or watch a piece of another reel. What's cool about when you actually remix and you share the content with your commentary, it basically compresses for the viewer. Like, you're sharing your content and theirs. You're doubling the value. They're getting a bang for their buck in spending time with you because you're curating content on behalf of them, for them. And I think that when you show up on social media, you don't have to be the creator. You can also be the curator, right?
Hmm.
Not to like, it's curate obviously is your
Great.
name, but you can be the curator of your feed and for other people too, and say, hey, I took all these experts I follow and I collected this content for you. Let me make it easier for you and spend less time. Instead of following all of these 100 people, you can follow me and I'll share the best of their stuff. Like, there's a lot to be said about taking an approach like that and how that adds value.
Yeah. And if you looked at on the Curate side, like on our social media, we have a saved folder on our Instagram for every single client. And every time I see a post where I'm like, oh, that would be great for Shannon, I save it. That would be
Yeah.
great for Jackie, I
Or
save it.
DM it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
She DMs me all these posts and I'm like, I made that already. Or I'll be like, I I will do that. Yes, I will. So she'll send me DMs, just the video, the reel, and I'm like, is this you telling me to go do this? She's
Yes.
like, yes.
That's
Um,
why I love having you as a client because you're the person that will do that.
I know. But then I'll go. Oh, all right, I have to go do that.
Fine.
Um, so it's super fun. I think the content creation process is fun. I do know that a lot of people find it hard to carve out the time, find it hard to, to develop the new ideas. What other tips do you have for uh like I said, compressing the time, or for just, you mentioned the calendars. Is there a strategy to the calendar, or to, what other ways do you have clients increase their success in being more consistent? What are some tips you have?
Yeah. Well, the way that we do it, we are transitioning to mostly just videos,
Mhm.
as you know. And so what we do is we actually script out, we tell the client the topics that they need to talk on. So this allows for them to sit down, they know exactly what they're creating, and they're able to do it in under an hour every single month, which
Mhm.
that's crazy to think.
Right.
Um,
It's true though.
yeah. And I think having everything organized in one central location is super beneficial and time compressing. Like we house everything in Google Drive. I've seen people do it in Asana. I do it personally because I create my own content. I just do it on an iCloud drive because
Mhm.
you can comment captions and then I can just go for my phone and pull it and post it. Um, so that's super, super time saving. And I think just allowing yourself to have the platforms that will allow for quick turnaround of content. Like we use an app called CapCut for all of the caption editing for clients and
Mhm.
ourselves. And that's literally been a lifesaver. And it's not fast per se, but it's faster than it would be if you were, going in on an Adobe app or something and manually doing all of that.
Totally. Now, there are a ton of myths out there. You mentioned some of the apps you use, right? Because I know you guys use the caption tools, and you also do scheduling. Um, there is this misconception, I was told. I think it's a misconception. You're going to tell us what the truth is, that somehow you're unfavored in the algorithm if you're pre-scheduling posts, or if you're doing something, if you're shortcutting anything. What
Yeah.
are the myths you're hearing about this, or are they actually true?
So we've done a few experiments on it. It doesn't really have the largest impact on your engagement. What we have found is third party scheduling platforms like Later, Publer, whatever the app may be, does actually impact engagement, but if you're using the native, like to Facebook and Instagram, so Meta, and then they just released a new, what is it called? Uh, Meta Scheduler and then Creator Studio. Those are like their two ones right now. If you use those, we've found that there's really not a lapse in engagement. I think the main thing is that when you're scheduling it out, you maybe have more of a mentality of just put it out there and let it be. And what really needs to happen is when you're posting, you need to be engaging. You need to be, if people are commenting, you need to be liking and responding to the comments. You need to be responding to all your DMs. You need to be liking posts, commenting on posts, responding to stories, posting on your stories, doing all the things that help drive that algorithm. And I think when you're scheduling things out, you maybe have a bit more of a hands-off approach. And so that's why we encourage our clients, we schedule everything out, we post it for them, but we still encourage them to show up as themselves. Otherwise, there's two pieces of the puzzle and they both have to go together in order to make it work.
Yeah, because I think the creation process, it makes sense to compress the time, but really convert the time that you're spending into more impactful activity like engaging. Because I think engagement, outgoing engagement, is what will drive results much faster than the quality of content, I think. Because there's the content creation, but then there's the engagement piece. And if you're going to spend, let's say, a half hour a day on Instagram, wouldn't you rather have your clients spend it on engaging with other accounts and creating activity and like making waves on the app as opposed to putting something there and letting it sit, right?
Exactly. And that's why like we recommend that, and we never do engagement for clients, which I know a lot of firms do, but we refuse because it's like you know your ideal client the best and you're the one that needs to be engaging with them and like learning from them and realizing how they interact and how you best should, talk to them, engage with them, and convert them eventually if that's your goal.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also part of why I like working with you guys, because one of the last things I will ever turn over to another person is my DMs, my comments, my engagement, my text messages, things like that. Like that is actually me. It almost will never not be me, because this is a game of trust here. And it's not even a game, it's the business of trust. You as my client, you trust me to handle your information and to interact with you. And if I'm too busy to make a comment or to engage with you, then I'm too busy to, work for you.
Yeah. And people always know. Like
They know.
you're not pulling the wool over their eyes. They know. And if you're, mass sending out cold DMs and all that stuff drives me crazy. It might work for some, but it drives me absolutely nuts.
Oh, it drives me crazy too. And they all look the same too, and it's
Yeah.
so funny. I'm like, what a waste of time for you to write these like 10 paragraphs, because I know exactly, as soon as I see that thing pop up, I know
Your
exactly.
pitch. Yeah. Like, hey girl, I love your page. I have this great community. You should join it.
I know
Like,
my favorite is "Hey
no.
girl," and I was like, okay, if this person actually knew me, they'd know I never say that.
Girl.
Hey girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like there's such a, it's social media.
Yeah.
The word social is in
Exactly.
it. Be social, show up. Um, and I think that a lot of people misinterpret show up to be like, I have to go live, or I have to be posting every day, and I have to be omnipresent, and I have to do, like, you don't have to do anything. But showing up is just being there and engaging with people and offering your thoughts, offering help, and
Yeah.
just trying to be there in the room.
And as much as you can with value. Like if you're posting, I know you've said this, I heard you say it somewhere of like,
Mhm.
you can post 5 times a week and that's all good and fine. But if it's not a value, like I'd rather you post 3 times a week and it be super valuable content than just showing up just to show up.
I agree. And with a little bit of like some tactical advice, Kaylee, what Instagram has really shifted into the video, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to do all the things. There's like new features rolling out every other minute, it feels like.
Yeah.
So we've got Reels, right? I think IGTV is a thing of the past, but we've got Reels, we've got we've got stories, we've got hard posts, we've got carousels, we've got all these different options. And it is, at least for me, I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. Can you guys just pick a thing and
Yeah.
give me like one or two options? Because I get so overwhelmed with too many choices of what to do. And I'm starting to get overwhelmed in the app. What type of content do you think belongs in each of these different types of media? Like, should we be using all of these And if we are trying to use all of them, how do we use them thoughtfully?
Yeah. I definitely think there is a place for both reels and static posts. I know that's kind of like up in the air right now, but I think it's the reels. Think of it this way, like reels are what is going to get eyes on your page. Static posts are what people are going to see once they arrive to your page, and it's going to establish a bit more of this, like they can scroll through, they can read it, they establish a bit more trust. And it helps break up your page because a bunch of videos on your feed on your grid just doesn't look the best. um, it really depends on what performs best for your audience. Like some clients, we do every other post, like one video, one static. But what I've found is most of the time it's like four videos and then one static post. That's what we end up doing. Um, and it's really, there's no template to follow per se. It's just do what suits you and figure out what works best and what performs best for your followers, your ideal client. Stories are super important, and that is going to drive a lot of engagement, especially if you're doing, polls, question boxes, all the things.
So let's talk about like content about the customer and content about you.
Yeah.
Balancing those things, right? Like how to showcase yourself, how to showcase yourself as a brand, your lifestyle, things like that, thoughtfully, and balancing that with, stuff that's directly value driven for your customer. I think that a lot of people struggle with, well, how much of my life do I show? How much do people care? And how do I show that effectively?
Yeah, it's definitely a delicate balance. I think that you can be more personal on stories for sure. And I think people love that because they feel like they're in your everyday life and they definitely they're like, oh, I know Shannon. Just like all of your followers that you've never met that you're like besties with. It's because of that.
Mhm.
So stories, totally fine. I think having like a highlight about you on your page is great. And then I think having a static post, maybe, once every few weeks to a month is totally fine, just for like all new followers, people that might stumble across your page, or maybe people that have been following you for a while but don't really know much about you and want to establish more of a relationship, potentially, becoming a client or whatever it may be in the future.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to shift away from just pure Instagram, but I have one more question on Instagram specifically because I know that's kind of like where a lot of your expertise is. What
Mhm.
is one brand new thing you learned more recently? One of the most recent things that you've learned about Instagram where you were like, oh my God. And it was like an aha moment or a feature change or something that maybe people don't know they can do in the app.
Yeah. So two things. Oh gosh. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My thing. Okay.
We're not cutting that out, by
Um,
the way. Go ahead.
no. Clumsy Kaylee. Number one, I'm clumsy. So there is a new feature called Topics, which, in my opinion, slash based on my research, will take over hashtags. As we all know, hashtags have been phasing out for a very long time. And topics are super cool. I actually just did a post on them recently, so you can go check it out. But basically, it's when you go to post where there's like tag people, tag your location, all that stuff, there's a section to add topics, and you just scroll a list of topics and you can click, 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 click.
I accidentally
Um,
found this when I was posting
so
reels.
cool. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Hmm.
So that is a new feature that I think will definitely kind of take over in terms of hashtags, and
It's
because
like tagging a blog post or it's like tagging
yeah,
your reel with subject matter topics. Now, there's one called like
exactly.
business, and then there's I think like small business, and there's some very like light topics, but I think that's going to grow. I think they're going to expand how many topics there are.
Yeah,
But I'm really excited about that because it looks like there's a lot of potential there to then search by topic.
exactly. And that's like Instagram is definitely lacking in their searchability.
Hmm.
Like people go to TikTok and they use it like Google because you can search literally anything and the exact thing that you want to see is going to come up. And I think Instagram is starting to realize that they're not great at that and they need to improve. So it'll be really cool. They're transitioning more like away from hashtags and more into keywords and more like SEO type, almost like a website.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that.
yeah. And then another thing is the scheduling feature of Reels within Instagram. And this hasn't been rolled out to everyone. So maybe by the time this podcast releases, it will be out to everyone. But within that same exact screen, so when you're like going to post the reel, if you scroll down and go to advanced settings, there is a section in there to be able to schedule your reels out natively within the Instagram app, which is literally a lifesaver. I know you saw that and you messaged me and you were like, I didn't know you weren't scheduling them out already.
I know.
Like,
no.
no.
I was like, wait a minute. Like, Kaylee, all the reels that we post each week that you post for me with the captions, you're telling me that you actually go into the app and have to go post this now. Like,
yep.
I just thought it was all miraculously happening behind the scenes automatically. And she's over there like cranking the machine.
God bless social media managers.
I know. All I gotta say. Guys, they were posting those live time if you didn't know. And I was like, wait, that's not a thing you do in Creator Studio? She's like, no.
Like, why? I don't know. But
yeah, I thought they would allow that, but I'm really glad they brought that feature out. But let's talk about, let's say Instagram isn't your thing. Instagram is definitely popular for a lot of business owners, but let's say it's just not where your ideal client's hanging out. So you're going to some of the other platforms. Can you just kind of give us an overview of your opinion on sort of I'll say the purpose and the perspective of each platform? And by that, I mean, what are people going to these platforms for? And how do you adjust how your client shows up on each platform? Because you do adapt content across platforms. So tell me like how you kind of interpret what each platform is, what's effective for each.
Yeah. So TikTok, of course, younger, more casual. It's a lot of like people showing up and, while they're doing their makeup, just talking about telling a story or anything like that. So that's a lot for, like influencers, maybe brands that have products. I see a lot of, and I also see a lot of service-based businesses actually advertising on TikTok. I think it's an amazing platform and I think there's a lot of potential to grow very quickly on there. So I think if you're not already repurposing any reels that you're posting at the very minimum to TikTok, then you're doing something wrong and you should be doing that. Which you can actually download. There is an app called snapinsta.app, I believe is the URL. And what you do is you copy the URL of your Instagram reel, you paste it into that website, and then you're able to download your reels without the watermark so that you can repurpose them elsewhere. Also, in the same line as TikTok with the videos is YouTube Shorts. I think that this is definitely going to be kind of blowing up a little bit more over the next few months. And it's kind of, I think, a mix of what we do on Instagram and what we do on TikTok. I think there is a lot of, serious, more business type content, but there's also a lot of more TikTok type casual YouTube mixed between YouTube and TikTok. So in the same sense, I think you should also be posting your reels there. If your focus right now, of course, is Instagram. It's just like being able to take all the content that you're putting already somewhere and repurposing it again, as we've talked about this whole show. Yeah. I think LinkedIn is, of course, your more like professional front. I feel like we use it for you and you get probably a lot of good traction on the CPA side, maybe.
Yeah, I'm connected to like all fellow accountants. It's like my whole list of coworkers I've ever worked with are on my LinkedIn. So it's a funny, different place to show. It's like walking into a networking event in a suit.
Literally, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I would say that's definitely more of like a networking thing. Mm-hmm. Like if you're looking to grow your network of, say, Shannon, you were to start like a mastermind or you wanted to bring people into your community, your circle community, I think LinkedIn is a really good place for that. And people do a lot of outreach on there. So if you are a business owner and you want to go more that, I guess, professional route, I think networking there is a really good idea.
Definitely. And, like you said, we have to be mindful of, I've heard advice like pick a platform and be consistent, right? Are you kind of in the camp of pick a platform and go all in? Or are you in the camp of multiply and do everything as much as possible? And or where are you kind of on that spectrum?
Pick a platform, go all in, but then use your same content that you're going all in on other platforms until you're able to kind of be omnipresent and outsource. I don't think that it's possible really for one person to establish presence in like a million different directions. I think that you need someone to take that over for you.
Yep.
It's too much.
I would
It's a lot.
agree. Divided focus, divided results.
Exactly.
I think that's completely on point. What do you think are some of the signs as we kind of we lean into this is outsourcing social media? Uh, it's one of the things that either it's like the first thing you outsource or you're going to hang on to it for dear life for whatever reason. And for the people who are debating, like, should this be something I actually outsource? I'm nervous about outsourcing it. Um, what are some of the signs or the indicators that it might be a good idea, or even just the people who are the best clients for you, let's say, are in what position?
Yeah, I think it's like a very much a growth stage, like you're ready to grow. I always am a big fan of outsourcing before you're ready. And I know that's what you said you did, and it's
Hmm.
your best decision that you've made.
Yes.
Um, but I think it's like this very much we're here. I know that we are starting to scale at this point to here, and I need to be able to get from this point to this point, and I can't do it in this same sense where I'm, doing literally everything. Um, because it's just too much.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
a lot of people are super scared, like they're not financially ready or whatever it may be. But as soon as you take that aspect that is taking away from everything else, that you're good at off your plate, is when you're going to be able to start expanding, bringing on more clients. You're going to start seeing results, all the things. Um, and it's not necessarily because, we're this expert social media team and we're bringing all your leads and everything like that. Like that's not how it works. But
Mhm.
you showing up consistently and you being able to have the time and energy to do your thing, to get your clients to do your networking, is what will bring those results.
And I'll add to that with I think one of the best investments I made before I worked with you guys was I invested in branding and copywriting help, meaning I invested in people who were going to help me refine my messaging so that I was
Mm-hmm.
super clear. I remember we had our meeting and Kaylee was like, "Who's your ideal client?" And I was like, "This person." And then what are you trying to do? This. What are some similar accounts to you? These. I had already done the upfront work to really understand where I wanted, like what space I wanted to fill on the platform and who I was looking to serve. And I think that if you're not clear on that, then it's a like garbage in, garbage out type of result because Kaylee and her team can only process the information that you provide them. So I
Exactly.
think it's really important to be super clear about your intent, purpose, and messaging because Kaylee and her team don't create my messaging. They just help me
Mm-mm.
get it out there. But
Yeah.
if they're distributing something that isn't super clear, then they're not to blame if it doesn't get results. And that's where I knew that to get the best value out of a social media team, invest in your messaging and know exactly where you stand with that. And if you're not clear on that, then maybe you guys can help with something like that, or you can reference people to folks who can. But that was a really big factor for me in ensuring success with outsourcing social.
Yeah. And I think that's a really big misconception too, is that, we're supposed to do it all. Like that's a completely separate piece and it should be completely dialed in. Yes, we are great at harnessing whatever you're trying to, portray. But I think being super clear on that on the front end is the best thing that you can do. And it makes everyone's lives so much easier, and your content 10 times better.
Yeah, well, it also helps deliver the value because I think when we got super clear about the messaging, that was when Kaylee and her team would start like they became dialed into other accounts like mine. They knew, oh, okay, this person's saying this over here, and they started looking and seeing other people who were talking to that ideal client or other examples of this stuff, and they were able to associate that and go, oh, that's a good thing for Shannon because we're super clear on what she's trying to do. And I think that's where you can have a really good combination of the business owner and the service provider working together is when you're on the same page with what the mission is.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. Kaylee, thank you so much for being on the show and letting me share you with everybody. And just tell everyone how they can find out more about Curate, what you do, and who you serve.
Yeah. So our website is curatecreative.com. It's curate with a K, so Kurate creative.com. All of our services are listed on there. You can contact us on there. I am super active on Instagram, so my handle is curate creative, again with a K. So follow me on there, shoot me a message. I'll always respond. I'll always have a conversation. Any marketing questions that you have, I am there. And the Instagram is a great page to go for resources. Like I have trainings galore on there. So definitely check it out. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been amazing.
Kaylee posts great reels too, by the way, guys, of like her doing screen share and walking you through how she does something. That's underappreciated right now on the platform because I know people get overwhelmed, but she actually walks you through how to physically do it, like what to click and everything. So it's great. And her and her team are just amazing to work with. So highly recommended by me. If you have any questions too on, what I do, my social media, how I use Kaylee and her team and success tips, do feel free to message me as well. I'm happy to offer any insights and also offer any testimonials for Kaylee and her team because these guys are amazing. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Kaylee, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.